Welcome back to Builders, Makers, Doers. I'm Andy Bassett. He's Elliot Bassett. And we're here today with Aaron Johnson, Vice President, Partner at Xtreme Heating and Cooling, local Omaha-based company, doing just what I said, heating and cooling work. We've worked with them since the beginning of time, since the foundation. So it's going to be exciting to kind of hear about that and learn more about what you guys are doing.
Let's build off that. All right, Aaron, thanks for coming in. Looking forward to this conversation. Appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so I always love, Andy kind of gave the intro, but I love to hear in your own words, going back to the beginning, give us your background and how you got into the industry, how you got into the business, and, take us back to that time of
I actually got into the industry when I was about 5 years old.
Oh, wow. I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, so my father was a service tech at a company in Lincoln. And when he would run calls on the weekends or something, he would take me with him.
Yeah.
And I would carry his tool pouch, go fetch parts out of the truck for him. And it was just a bonding moment I had with my dad that's been a really good memory for me.
Yeah.
Wow. 5 years old, so you've been in the business 15 years now.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, exactly. Wow, that's wild, though. And, it's funny, we have a lot of these conversations now, how many people have a similar story like that of, they, as a kid, had some sort of, whether it was a parental figure or, anybody, a mentor of something, they got you into that industry. So fast forward a little bit to, Xtreme and how you got everything moving with the business, and talk through, the start, I guess.
So Jerry, our founder, started the business as a side gig, but he did it the right way. He got his license. He got insurance.
Yep.
He did his bookkeeping. He did all the things you're supposed to do to start a business. And it did not conflict with his original boss, with his boss he was working for. So that just grew up so big to where he told his boss, hey, this is too big now. I have to go take care of this. And he officially, with Mike Smith, you guys remember Mike, started the business in 2012. I came along in 2017.
Okay.
And I've been here ever since.
That's pretty cool how, a lot of people don't realize that that's an option, but starting something while you have your main gig to get your own thing off the ground is a great way to do it. I love how he approached it. Like, I'm not trying to screw anybody over or anything. I'm doing it the right way. And it turns into something like Xtreme, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, and there's a lot of folks out there that are doing side gigs, but they're not doing it the right way. They're not getting the insurance.
Cash.
They're putting themselves in a big liability that personally by not having a LLC started, being insured properly, which I just love for those people to be mindful that they need to do it the right way to limit their liability.
Yeah, well, and we were, as I mentioned in the intro, we've been involved since the very beginning with Jerry, and you mentioned 5 years later you joined the company, but you made the comment in there that, it was a side deal, grew quick. Jerry realized I got to put my full attention into this deal. What do you think, what do you attribute maybe early on Jerry and Xtreme success and growth when it was literally just that kind of a side gig? What would you attribute that to?
Jerry is one of the most motivated people I've ever met in my life. He would get off of work, go home, sometimes back to Omaha, grab all of his tools, go back to Lincoln, do a replacement, run a service call. I don't think that guy ever slept. No way.
Yeah.
And it's kind of cool to go back through and see some of the things he did back then, and we still have records of it. And
that's pretty cool.
Unbelievable how much that guy worked.
Yeah.
He was really driven, and he saved every penny he made to buy more equipment and grow the business.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because I remember that and I know that he was very mindful of debt. He was mindful of having cash. He was mindful of saving and reinvesting. I mean, he didn't, it's not like he was living a crazy lifestyle or anything. He was grinding and working. And so that all those attributes are what early on allowed that company to have success and grow over those first 5 years. And then, so maybe talk about, we get to 2017. Jerry's been grinding, doing all the things. Then you enter the equation. Like how, why, when, where, what was the...
We actually have a mutual friend that I worked with at the time that I was talking in the garage about how I didn't really have anywhere to go, I thought, in the company I was working for. There's no way to go up the ladder.
Yeah.
And so Bill said, hey, Jerry would love to have a guy like you. And he got us together. We went out for a breakfast, and we sealed the deal right there.
That's pretty cool. So you came over and just started working first for Xtreme, and then was it always the plan to have you, become a leader, owner, partner in the company, or did that just kind of naturally happen?
Jerry has a way of, when he meets somebody he can trust, which I thought was kind of odd, that he kind of brought that up to me right away. It's like, you don't really know who I am yet. But he has a sense about things, I think. And he kind of did offer it. That's a potential, it's a possibility in the near future. And that's what we did. I mean, he held to it, and he got me in as a partner with the company.
That's pretty cool. Go back to, some of those early days when you started with Xtreme and him. What were some of the lessons you took from him? Obviously, he's been running the business. He was a grinder. It sounds like very motivated. But just what are some of the things, thinking back, you really took from him that have molded you into, the leader you are today?
So I would say very often, and it was a good thing because he's a grinder, I would come in, I would stay after hours. There was many times Jerry I'd be there till 8, 9 o'clock at night, him showing me how to estimate, going over projects, pictures, learning from him all the things I didn't really get a chance to learn at the company I was at previously. And that helped me a lot to set me on the arrow of being where I am today.
Yeah, mentor for sure.
He really invested in you
He did.
Because it's more than just, money. It's knowledge, and it's, you can only learn so much in the classes and the designations and the whatever you're going to get. You got to get the real world experience and get knocked down a few times and fail a few times to figure out actually how the real world works.
Absolutely.
That's great.
So I think for people that watch this too, that are founders or have started a company and then they're looking to bring somebody in as they grow, they're potentially a partner or whatever, I think this could be a valuable piece of insight. Because I think I know maybe the answer, but I'm just going to ask the question. Like, walk through your skill sets, like you and Jerry, just skill sets, personalities, like similar, different, complementary. Like, what allowed you two to come together and really grow and have the success you've had today as you enter in on something he'd, been building for 5 years?
Yeah. So Jerry's personality, he's constantly looking at different things that are mechanical. He remembers measurements from his head from 10 years ago. He'll tell me the size of an elbow up on the side of a building. It's just unbelievable how he's able to do that. That I am not good with. I have a terrible memory. I'm more service oriented. I understand how electronics work, how electricity works, and I can kind of see the same thing with wires. I can almost see electricity in my eyes. That and the skill set of having skills with customers, being able to talk to them, having them comfortable with me being in their home. That's kind of the skill set I brought on. I also am very good with IT and technology. I kind of have a background in it before I went full-time into HVAC. I'm great with Excel. I've created estimating programs with Excel. That's our guys use still today. Those are some of the skills I've brought on.
I asked that question because I think I know that and I see it in the two of you, and I think that's important for people to understand is that's probably what Jerry saw early on too, was like Aaron brings a different type of skill set, a complementary skill set to what Jerry had. And I think that's what I've seen as an outsider kind of watching and looking, is that those types of things allow companies to have a lot of success where, not that you can't have success, but if you bring two people in that share identical skill sets, have different or same personalities and all that, it might be harder to be complementary to one another and see the growth and success. So it was really why I asked the question. I figured that'd be kind of the way you'd answer it, but I think it's good insight again for people that are watching this and trying to take little snippets away. So
Sure.
Yeah, no, appreciate that piece of it.
Yeah, so just talk through where the company's at today. So you started officially in 2012. What's the company look like today?
So right now we're at about 45 employees. We've been up to 50, 55.
Yeah.
Kind of depends on what time of year it is. In the summer, we bring on some extra help from college kids.
Yeah.
We're doing really well. Last year we had a slow quarter one. I think everybody in the country did, which was a little difficult. We got through last year. It's a brand new year now.
Yeah, totally.
We have a huge outlook on the year. We got a lot of jobs sold on the commercial side. I'm not sure where to go.
Yeah, no. What are some of those? How has the work changed or more for? Has it? Was it, starting mostly residential? You mentioned you've gotten more into commercial. What's that mix? Just kind of how do you look at how and where you're getting work, and how does that affect growth and all those?
So we do a lot of plan and spec for commercial construction. We have a really solid crew of estimating team and project managers. Sorry
not to interrupt you. You're taking plan and spec. You're taking the build plans for a building, and you're helping them plan the HVAC, specking everything out. All that.
So plan and spec is where they have a project already designed. They send it out to public bid. Everybody bids on it. We put in our number, get a part of the project.
Got it. Okay.
So that's a big chunk of our commercial construction. We also do some smaller design build, which is where we help design the system and whatever's in our ability. Once you get over a certain square footage, it has to be engineered.
Yeah.
But we do a lot of design build. We help people solve problems with a smaller project crew that we have for that as well.
Yeah.
And then you've also, within the last couple of years, brought on kind of the plumbing side of the business. So maybe talk through that. It's obviously complementary to the work you were doing. You brought another partner and Ryan in on that. Maybe just walk through how'd that develop, why'd that kind of come about, and how's that going?
Really, Ryan came about, he wanted to go out and do something for himself. A mutual friend brought us together and said, hey, why don't you guys do something together? Yeah. And we thought Ryan was a great fit. Jerry's known him for 20 plus years. He's a hard worker. He has a lot of knowledge to bring with the plumbing side. Started off with him just grinding for 1.5, 2 years. Now we're up to about 7 or 8 plumbers now total.
Nice. Yeah, I love that. There's a common theme in there, which is, people that know you and know Jerry and know Ryan making connections and saying, hey, you guys are good people. You should know each other. I don't know if there's anything there or not, but you guys should meet. And I think, that's another common thread I feel like we hear a lot is like relationships matter and people that matter and being a good person matters because you're not going to get that introduction if they don't trust you to, be a good intro referral or whatever you want to call it. And so it sounds like that's common or you've experienced that as well with some of your introductions and where you've gotten it.
I mean, really business is a whole bunch of relationships brought together. I mean,
so true. Yeah.
You can't have business without them. It's matter of fact, I think you could just start any business by making the right connections and relationships.
Well, and I think in your industry in particular, relationships really matter because people have to trust. Thinking of the residential side, I don't know when a team's coming out and telling me whether or not I need to invest this much money into my system or whatever, and you really have to trust that relationship, believe in the people coming out because it's really easy, for somebody to want to upsell or whatever you want to call it. And so I've always appreciated, obviously, that with your guys' team, and I think that's important. I think that pays massive dividends, right, over time because that's what gets, from a service side, that's going to get people repeat and want to continue to do business, right?
Yeah, and then there's kind of an issue in Omaha, especially where there's a lot of dishonesty in the trades, and especially with HVAC, it seems like we've lost a lot of respect from the community as a trade in a whole. That it really is important to get that reputation out there. Hey, you can trust us to come to your home and take our advice on what you need to do.
So that's interesting. How do you do that? I mean, aside from obviously when you're at the home or at the business and in communication and promising but What do you do? Like, it's an interesting thing you said when it's industry wide, specific in the demographic you guys are serving or the community you're serving. Like, what do you do to overcome that?
It's difficult. It really is. Every new customer is skeptical of us. They've already had a bad experience from somebody.
Yeah.
The main thing is go through their system with them, do our job the way we need to do it, the way we're trained, the checklists we have, go over all our findings with the customer, and just build a relationship with that customer that says, hey, you can trust me to be in your home.
Yeah.
And that's the only way to really do it. We're not out there to convince somebody that we're good people. We just need to do our job the way we need to do it and build on that reputation.
Yeah, that's kind
I think if people can sense it too. I mean, I've had number one, I am a big believer, especially when it's trades or things I don't understand. I'll ask around and find somebody that somebody else trusts that has done a good job, and then okay, just come do it. You know, I don't want to go around and look for 3 different prices and all this stuff. I know I should, but like, I don't understand this thing, and the last thing I want to do is have you come in and, you know, go to service my furnace and tell me that, oh, you're gonna have to, you know, upsell me on 8 different things that I actually don't need. I just want to trust that if you tell me I need those things, I need them, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I've always gotten that from your team. I just had them out. I have a newer system now, and they were like, I can't remember what it was. I was asking them something. They're like, yeah, no, you don't want to do that. Like, you don't need to do that. There's no reason. And, but they've always done that. But I think that's important, you know, when you're talking about reputation and you know, you're kind of battling against a tide in your industry. It's almost important. You got to go the other way. So hard the other way to lean against that tide of the reputation of the industry to make sure people know who you are, what you stand for. You're going to treat them right. And that they can trust you ultimately. I think that's the ultimate thing. But do you guys, that kind of leads me into, you know, growth, getting new customers. Is it mostly from referrals? Cause it feels like the way you operate, you could be getting a lot of referrals to other people. Just again,
I'd say 80% of our business is referrals on the residential side.
Yeah.
We don't do a lot of advertising. Most of our advertising budget's in just the website itself.
Yeah.
Gaining new customers, and I think that's part of the issue too, is some of these companies have such large marketing budgets that they have to, you know, upsell and be maybe a little dishonest to make sure they're covering those marketing budgets.
Yeah.
That's just not the business model we want to have. We want people to be happy with us, build on that reputation. And I think there's still a market out there for just good, honest service.
Oh, I totally
We don't have to just market our way into every home in Omaha.
Yeah. Nothing against that. I mean, obviously marketing is, you have to do the marketing, and there's, you know, like you mentioned, there's companies that have different strategies on how they're going to grow. But there's sometimes when certain things, especially like I said, trades that I don't understand or whatnot, that I almost get skeptical. When, like, I don't want to call the you know, Instagram ad that's targeting me or whatever. You know, like I'd rather ask somebody that has had experience with somebody and call that person. And I don't know. It's just like, it almost turns me off because I'm like, I don't know who this is.
Totally agree.
I feel pretty aggressive on, you know, the ads. And like, there's a reason.
Yeah, exactly.
But again, I think the best way to go about that is exactly as you mentioned, just do good work for people, and you know that's going to come around.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so we talked about the challenge of kind of overcoming the skepticism in the industry, your trade specifically. What, like when you think about the business, the growth you've had, the success, all the things over the years, what are the 1 or 2 like probably biggest challenges that come to mind when you think about, you know, growing the business, running the business, you know, day in and day out?
Probably the biggest challenge is finding the right people, the right employees, the manpower. We don't want to just hire somebody that has been upselling for the last 5 years, doesn't really have a big skill set. Yeah. We want guys that understand, ladies. We have a female technician that we absolutely love. She's brilliant. Thought I should just put that in there. So the biggest thing is we want we want somebody that comes, craftsmen. We want craftsmen. We don't want somebody that just knows how to slop it together. We want them to be well trained. And the only way we've really been able to find those people is to train them ourselves. We've hired a couple of really good guys from other companies. I think we got very lucky. We're very happy to have them as employees. And they've helped us train along the way too.
Well, it's interesting because I don't know the number, but it's like 80 or 90% of the time we ask that question, that's the answer. The biggest challenge is finding people. And it doesn't matter industry, obviously, and on this particular podcast, we're talking to people in the trades, but I mean, it's no different than in our industry. And you said something interesting because we have definitely doubled down on this same belief is, it's hard. I get when you said, somebody that's been in kind of that upsell mentality, maybe not the craftsman, it's really hard to kind of teach the old dog new tricks sometimes, right? Mm-hmm. I think we've kind of learned that in our industry that, our model is unique enough that people in the industry don't necessarily always gravitate toward it. And sometimes we found, it's harder to try to get somebody to rethink how to go about doing the business rather than even sometimes bringing somebody in that maybe is newer or greener, but we can train, our way from the beginning. And so I'm curious if it seems to align with what you're saying. Obviously, when you grab somebody from another company that has the experience, but have you found yourselves bringing people in that are relatively new, relatively green, that you can bring kind of up your way and the right way?
Absolutely. That's kind of our model now. The difficulty with that is scaling it. It takes a long time to train somebody, 4 or 5 years to get them to the point where they could be productive for you. And that is the greatest challenge, is scaling that type of business model with the correct training.
Yeah, it's a big investment, and can be riskier because you got to have the culture that goes along with it, so that those folks that you're training for 5 years aren't gonna get to year 6 and be like, I'm gonna go work over here for $1 more an hour or whatever. So that's always the risk. But I totally agree with you. I think if you have something unique, or you're trying to build that long-standing company, I think that's definitely a great way to do it. One of the ways that we kind of think about it is we'd like to bring younger, let's say inexperienced to our industry folks that want to learn, that have the right raw talents and skill set, and train them. But we also need to be bringing in a certain number of experienced people, far fewer. We aren't going to just scale by bringing on, trying to steal the 20-year tech from so-and-so. But if we find the right person that can come in and help, like you mentioned, help train those folks we're bringing in that are inexperienced, we can hopefully continue to grow that side of it. But it's tough. I mean, the people side is the challenge for everybody. But so again, I want to shift gears to projects a little bit. So one of the things we always love to ask is probably on the commercial side, but is there any project you've done over the years that you just sticks out in your mind as, a fun project? It was really cool. It was enjoyable. Maybe it was a challenge that you guys had to overcome, but tell us about a cool project that you guys did.
That might be a difficult one for me. I'd have to think about that one for a while.
Sometimes everybody's like, well, they're all my babies. Like they're all.
Well, yeah, we have a lot of customers, Fortune 500 companies that use us for service that we're very proud of.
Yeah.
There's one in particular customer. They have 5 stores here in town with hundreds of pieces of equipment. And we went into this place. They were really frustrated with what was going on with their stores.
Yeah.
And we could not believe the amount of work that needed to be done on this place. Every unit had a several $1,000s repair required. I mean, massive holes in heat exchangers, a ton of things that were just overlooked by the company that was there previously. I think they were just changing the filters and running away.
Wow.
They have so many units that it's kind of hard to detect that there's an actual issue in the store. Yeah. They have a lot of redundancy. But that was really fun and rewarding to show them all the pictures of everything that's going wrong. They knew they had issues. That's why they called us. And having them thank us and have gratitude for what we were able to do for that company, that was really rewarding. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, how does it even get to that point?
We still ask ourselves that. I mean, that particular situation, and it's not like they're the type of company that really stickler on, oh, I want $50 less.
Yeah.
You know, they're not trying to beat us up on price. I don't think they ever were that way. They just want a good, solid service done on their equipment, and it just wasn't being done.
I mean, it's wild. That's almost like the other end of the spectrum of what we were talking about earlier, where people all want to upsell and try to do more than's needed. And in this particular case, they were completely ignoring just the standard work that needed to be done to maintain the systems. That's
Yeah, and I actually almost started to feel like hopefully they don't think I'm being this way.
Yeah,
I called them and had the conversations like, look, you're going to get a lot of estimates and pictures, and he said, we know.
Yeah.
We know this is coming.
I can totally imagine the dynamic, like the where your mind was going with that. It's like, oh wow, like I know the issues are there. This is a new relationship to some degree. I've got to kind of be the bearer of bad news here in an industry that already has this kind of black eye towards people wanting to, push more than needs to be done on things. And so I'm sure that's a challenge, but it's cool to see that in the end, like I saw the smile on your face when you talked about how thankful they were for the work that was done. And like, that's one of the maybe coolest things that when we're having these conversations on the podcast in particular is like seeing that reaction to, in the business you're in the trades where you're actually tangibly doing work that you can see the result of, and you can drive around town and tell your wife and kids that story when you're driving by one of those stores. I mean, that stuff's cool. And I think, I hope everybody that is in the trades and gets into the trades for these reasons can double down on that feeling, because you're gonna have frustrating days, right? You're gonna have the 20 below day that you got to get on the roof or whatever,
Call the customer and tell them, they got to spend a lot of money to fix it. That was kind of where my head went. And I don't know if you have an answer to this question, but do you think that's a lot of it? Like this other contractor that was going up there, I mean, they obviously would have had to deliver bad news to the client of just, you're gonna have to spend a lot of money to fix these things. And sometimes I get the feeling just people, they make an assumption that the client isn't going to want to spend money on it, right? They want the cheapest it can be. And so they go in and do the bare minimum and get out, right? Now, some just want to do it because it's more profitable or whatever. I get that too. But sometimes I feel like people they either make an assumption of what the client wants, or they don't want to call and have that hard conversation about, here's what we found, and, here's what it's going to take to fix it, and be honest about it, and have a tough conversation. I mean, do you have any input on your feeling of the industry around some of that?
Well, I think that you hit a good point that communication is key. Yeah. They assumed that this is what the client wanted. Now, we do have clients that want to just spend the very bare minimum they can, which is fine. We just want them to be aware of everything that's going on. And if you don't have that connection from the field to the office to the client and everything in between, that's where those communications break down, and the client's just left in the dark.
Yeah. Well, and to add to that point, because I've experienced this with your team, and I would just like you to expand on it, is like education almost, right? Like I don't know how this thing works. And I consider myself more handy than most, but like, I don't know how the furnace works in general. Like, so if you tell me something needs to be fixed, I'm like, okay, I guess it needs to be fixed. But your team seems to do a good job of like showing the picture. Here's what this thing does. Here's what it's going to lead to if we don't think about that. Or prepping, hey, this is looking like in the next year or two, we're going to need to think about this thing. Is that something you guys train on? Is that something that you're big believers in? Because I've experienced it, certainly.
We do, and I'm a big fan. There's a lot of stigma in the trade that, hey, we're going to lose our jobs to people buying parts on Amazon.
Yeah.
I'm not scared of that. Yeah. There's not enough of us to fix everything out there anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
When it's really hot and when it's really cold, there's not enough of us. Yeah. Calls back up. The entire city's busy. Yeah. I had a single mom once call me out on a late night, and she had a dirty flame sensor in her furnace. And it was such an easy fix. I showed her what she could do. She got her screwdriver out there. I had her do it.
Yeah.
I showed her how to clean it, put it back together, and I said, look, this is something simple you could do once a year. Take care of it. I didn't charge her. Yeah. Sometimes just putting people on that path of taking care of things themselves later on they're going to tell their friends, their neighbors, hey, call these guys.
Oh, totally. And it's just the right thing to do. I've always gathered that from you guys, and treating people the right way. Like you said, it always comes back around probably tenfold. You don't always know it, but just doing the right thing by people is always good business.
Yeah, and some folks, they need help, and we're not scared of helping folks either. We always have channels and ways to help somebody out if they can't quite afford anything.
Yeah, no, that's great.
Shifting gears a little bit because it's something you said, and even when you were speaking at the very beginning of the podcast, talking about, you mentioned Amazon and the threat of being able to buy stuff online or whatever, and obviously collectively across a lot of industry, the AI revolution and boom. Oh, somebody needs something. The AI.
Somebody's furnace went out.
Yeah, right. The AI, kind of pressure in different industry. Maybe just walk through. And then you said in the beginning, you kind of like to lean into technology. What's that look like in your industry as far as technology coming in, outside threats? Are you leaning into them? Are certain ones actually threats to a degree, or how do you view that, tech specifically, maybe related to these?
I love AI. Yeah. It's really difficult to see how the future is going to go, but AI is helping us just become, we could take a picture of a model and serial on an air conditioner. AI will figure out everything about that piece of equipment, give us the documents. There's a lot of cool stuff that's coming out there to help us be more efficient with our jobs. And I think leaning into it's great. I don't think AI is going to ever be able to replace what we do physically out in the field. Maybe someday it'll be robots, but
Well, that's what's funny is, you think back. I find this topic so interesting because you think 10 years ago, I bet everybody would have said the first people to get automated are the blue collar, manufacturing, all the blue collar jobs, and now it's the opposite, where it's like the people that AI is going to replace are the white collar jobs with the knowledge workers, to where AI can do that, 10 times better, more efficient, et cetera. And the trades are the ones that we're going to need more of, and we need to get more people back into the trades. Whereas 20 years ago, it was, we were killing the trades from an education perspective. And so I know that to see where that'll go is super interesting to me with AI, because I totally agree with you. I think for those that adopt it in the right ways, it just makes you more efficient and able to do your job better. Hopefully, cut down on 20% of the time it takes to do a job, and you can do one more job every day.
Absolutely.
Or something like that.
I think what we've seen, and what I just maybe heard you say, is, we're leveraging AI and tech as much as we can to allow our team to be more client facing, right? And let's take the stuff that the client can't see or feel and leverage tech to do that, and allow our team to be freed up to do more on the advisory side to the client, to create value, move the needle, build the relationship. And it sounded like you're saying kind of the same thing, is like, we're going to use the AI to give our craftsmen the ability to be able to go and do more and be more successful for what the client feels and sees, right? I mean, is that a fair?
Yeah. Acquiring information. There's so many things AI can do. Sometimes it can even help with troubleshooting in a way. If there's not a manual there at the furnace, we need to know what so many blinks are for an error code. AI will help us find that, just like that. Yeah. Instead of scouring Google and trying to find that book from the manufacturer or calling around, boom, it's there in 3 seconds.
You don't think about the efficiency that creates in the moment.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't think about that. So that's interesting.
I imagine training some of those guys you were talking about, it takes 5 or 6 years. Maybe it can help decrease that learning curve.
That's very true.
Right?
Absolutely.
We'll obviously see where that goes. But.
Well, that, and if the robots ever come to reality, you can send the robots up on the 20 degree below day.
Yeah, there you go.
Exactly. And who's going to work on those robots?
Yeah,
totally.
Exactly. I know. I mean, it's interesting. Yeah, quite a dynamic. But I kind of anticipated in asking the question. That's how you'd answer it. But I think for people that listen and watch, I think just how can you leverage tech and AI specifically to be able to do the job more efficiently, more successfully. And I think just the example you gave of on the fly, being able to get information and then apply it to the situation, that's exactly the key.
Yeah, and I've heard a statistic in the last few years that the average service technician in the HVAC world is in their lower 60s, right?
Wow.
So there's going to be a huge gap that I think efficiency and AI is going to help fill.
Wow. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, there's blue collar workers their wages have gone up quite a bit in the last 5-10 years, and it's due to that.
Yeah, that's wild. I mean, that's a massive void that you're right. Hopefully there is a solution there in tech and AI that can kind of bridge that. Because otherwise,
absolutely.
I mean, that lag of talent and people, I mean, that's already there. Like, you can't just recover from that, overnight. I mean, you got to get the people, get them into the education and training and bring them along. And there's definitely a gap there. At least that's constantly hear it.
And it even goes to the supply houses and some of those older gentlemen and women that went into the supply houses to decrease the wear and tear on their bodies. That knowledge is going to be gone soon.
Yeah.
So that it's not just the people that are going to be gone; it's all that knowledge that's just going to disappear over the next 5-10 years. They haven't had a chance to pass that down yet.
Yeah, that's crazy. Well, before we wrap up, is there anything thinking back on your career to this point that you think about as far as lessons or maybe overcoming a challenge that you think say somebody that's just now starting their HVAC company or getting into the business that you might think that they should know or learn from your experience, but as we wrap up?
I think we touched on that in the beginning. Start everything out doing it the right way. Get your insurance, get your license. Make sure that you have all your T's crossed and I's dotted. If you don't start off with a good foundation, it's going to be really hard to bring that back around once you do start to get and grow. And at that, you're not going to be able to scale unless you have that foundation under you.
I think that's great advice.
Yeah, well, and I think for people, it's easy not to do what you just said because it takes an investment of capital, an investment of time, an investment in all different things to make sure you're doing it the right way from the beginning. And I think what you've said, what we've seen from the outside looking in, is that those investments early on from Jerry and ultimately you and the rest of the team have certainly paid off. And so it's been fun, obviously, to watch you guys grow and have success. And I think it's going to be fun to watch it well into the future because I know that that's the intention for you guys is to continue to do this and do it well. And so, we'll be excited to watch it. But, it was interesting to hear and learn from it. It was great. And, it was great having you on, man.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, appreciate it.